no
Okay.
problem.
All right.
Yeah. So in terms of where you guys are at, I know you guys said you're working on like a lot of marketing things. You're starting to ramp that up a little bit. But you're kind of looking to complete the tool belt before you really get up and running. So in terms of like your systems and automation, like do you guys have a CRM built out yet, or you're still kind of looking at different options?
So yeah, we have a VA that's pulling all that together now. Um, we didn't have a real CRM, but we were using something that kind of kept us organized through our service that we are using to do our text messaging blast.
Awesome. Sweet. Sweet. Good to know. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like creative financing and sub two, like where are you looking to get the most help from Pace?
I guess the goal would be number one, understanding like the decision tree,
Yeah.
and Pace talks about that a little bit. When 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 do you go wholesale? When do you go sub two? When do you go seller financing? So really, because our goal is, if we're going to spend the money on marketing, we don't want to throw away any leads.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like a huge thing that he went through when he was starting out. He went to like when he was like wholesaling and ramping up his business. He's like, man, I'm now that I'm expanding and doing more deals, like I'm spending more and more money on marketing. There's more and more costs that I'm incurring. I feel like there's deals that I'm potentially leaving on the table and that I'm spending money on marketing, but I'm not getting the biggest bang for my buck. So like that's why he was like, I need to just learn about creative financing. Just because like he felt like there was a way he could do this in a more efficient manner. And I mean, yeah, the decision tree is a great example of it, like what to do with how to do it, and really like when's a good time to go into wholesaling versus like a lease option or seller finance as well. I mean, there's so many like things that you can do with creative financing. It doesn't have to necessarily just be the wholesale versus sub two way to do it as well. But yeah, Earl, I mean, I feel like I have a good idea of where you guys are at in terms of your business. It definitely sounds like you guys are starting to definitely start expanding a little bit. It's like not just in terms of your business, but into other markets. And from from my understanding, it sounds like you guys are really just looking for ways to be more efficient in the way you spend your money, and start, as you start bringing more costs in, why wouldn't you want to be getting the most bang for your buck? um, so really I'll just kind of dive right into what you guys can expect from this mentorship, and what it kind of looks like, because it is a lot of kind of information, a lot of different things to expect. So once I start diving in, you guys ask me any questions that you have, and then really what this is for, so you guys just can make it as an informed of a decision as possible. Um, does that sound good?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sweet, sweet. So our number one goal, in terms of when we do start with a new client, is that they close their first creative finance deal within about 30 to 40 days. Um, and so the first thing that you're going to be doing when you jump in as Ambrose and and Earl, really the biggest thing is going to be just first you're going to be going through kind of a 6-week video like crash course on creative financing. Um, that's really the idea there, is to get you up and running on everything in terms of how to run your own creative finance business, or how to add this tool to your belt. So I'm going to share my screen out and kind of show you guys what it looks like. And this is something you're also going to have lifetime access to as well. Um, so if you can see here, pardon all my all my tabs that I've opened, but so if you guys can see right here, this is kind of what it looks like. So split up by weeks, and you also have lifetime access to this. So whenever you bring someone new on in the team and you want to educate them, get them up and running on everything they need to know, this is what you'll point them towards. So I'll kind of click on the beginning. with the beginning is just kind of the intro. Goes over creative financing, how it's different than wholesaling, difference between loans, and then how to underwrite a deal. You click on it and it's Pace there walking you through exactly how to do it. He'll give you downloads that you can print out and see if it's really a deal or not a deal, based on the information that they give you. So you can kind of quiz yourself and make sure that you really understand it. Um, and then from there, let me go back here. Then it starts getting, he talks a little bit about his journey, and really what to look for in terms of when you start building your team. He goes over really his journey in terms of how he got to where he is today. When you're running a business, and starting one, especially, one of the biggest things that he talks about is making sure you have the right people on your team and making sure that there's not anything missing, in terms of how you're doing things. Definitely sounds like you guys are starting to build your team a little bit. So really here, something that he goes over is really what to look for in terms of how to magnify each person's strengths and how to really make sure that you're not missing anything in terms of where you're at with your business. But really then he dives into acquisitions. So what to look for in a creative finance deal, what to versus a wholesaling deal, right? Um, he goes over really what he does for marketing, and his VAs, how he hired them and how he maintains them. Really here he goes over a lot of his marketing strategies, and he goes over really what the process was behind doing it, the pros and cons of each one, and like what to expect in terms of the cost as well. So
Okay, let me just pause real quick. So is his VAs using one script when they're calling for creative deals and a second script when they're calling on wholesale deals, or is it one script that he's using and the VA can pivot based on how the questions are being answered?
exactly that second one. So really he kind of structures it in like four pillars. So he doesn't really he so all the VAs that he uses, I'm not sure which ones you guys use, but he uses VA Hub. These guys are trained in creative financing and wholesaling. So they know kind of how to take the conversation. So Pace, rather than giving them just a script on, very rigid, like you just move down the questions, he taught them how to kind of pivot depending on where the conversation goes on how to take the next step in the conversation. So you can listen to it in these like example calls, from his VAs, and how, depending on what the person responds with, what the question that he asks is next. So he talks about a lot about how to manage VAs and then how to properly kind of get the most use out of them. Um, that's something he goes on in over in acquisitions. And then like week 4, he goes over really what a business setup looks like, how to actually go through the nitty gritty of completing the creative finance deal. It is a little bit different in terms of, wholesaling. There are some things where, there is some information where, if it's missing or you don't have it quite right, it can kind of, you can kind of lose the trust of the seller, right? So here he kind of just wants to give you guys the biggest, he just wants to make sure everything is covered and that you're prepared and have the confidence to really approach a seller in a way that you can answer all their questions. Really what's next here, this is my personal favorite in terms of what you can do really in the training for me. He goes over just 8 different exit strategies. So once you kind of acquire the property and you have it under your under contract, what to do with it, right? Just because you're locking down properties, and you're locking down contracts doesn't mean you're making money necessarily. So he goes over, you can see all the 8 different ones right here, and really what to do with the property, all with different like cash flow structures, and what to expect from each one. So you guys can kind of make an informed decision on where to go from it. Really, here, like what we've kind of recommended, and the kind of strategy that I've come up with, just to give you guys an example, is in the beginning, typically what we see from people is their first couple deals that they do lock down, through creative financing, they'll assign them or they'll wholesale them and make a fee on it, and just to kind of get comfortable with it and build their capital up a little bit. And then from there, once they get that process down and they have a little bit more capital to work with, they'll start diving into these next strategies. Whether you guys want to get started or how soon you guys want to get started on that, it's really, you guys have the flexibility to do so. But like, for example, he goes over like a rental, for example, how to really start building your rental portfolio, the pros and cons that he's kind of faced with, for example, in terms of like being a landlord. It can be a pain in the ass. So if you're running a business and you really want to get into rentals, for example, he goes over like how to hire like an acquisitions manager so they can take care of that piece for you rather than you guys having to do it yourself. Um, the wrap exit strategy. So, I mean, it really depends on where you want to go,
So,
whether you want to build equity.
so let me ask this question, Clemente. So we're right now exploring the lease option strategy. So how would they marry each other?
The lease option marrying which one? Like the,
Sub with excuse me, I got a plane. Hang on.
no worries, no worries. I think I'm understanding like really like the sub two versus a lease option. Like once you get the acquisition side from the sub two, what how you can kind of transition into a lease option.
Exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to ask.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, really. So he, let me see if I can show this to you guys. I put these. Let me see. Yeah. So really, what he does here. Let me see if I can show you because he goes on it in a really great way. So yeah, he'll draw this out, kind of show you exactly what it does. Can you see my screen right now? What the
Yeah,
video is and
I
everything?
see it. Yeah.
So really, what he goes over is just because he can. I mean, he can explains it so much better than I do. So really, it just once you have the contract locked and there's your terms with the seller that you got it
Yeah.
from there you can really do whatever you want in terms of where the buyer comes in.
Hmm.
Does that kind of make sense? So it doesn't matter really what kind of terms you have in terms of the seller because you can transform it and do whatever you want with a new contract with the tenant buyer, right? So he goes over really, so as you can see right here, he goes over all his entry fees that it cost him to get involved with the property along with the purchase price of 145. So with the seller, from what it looks like, it was a there was a down payment involved, but it was a total of like 145 was the total purchase. And then he goes over like the cash to seller and all these like arrears and marketing and everything. Um, and then from there, you can see it. He took that 145. He brought up the purchase price to 185, and then the option fee in the future is at 10K.
Hmm.
Um, so you're going to be pocketing that and using that towards your entry fee. All these different things here.
Hmm.
So it seems like 5,000, 2,000, 2,000. So if you get right now, he got this house for free,
Hmm.
right? He got the he's covering with this 10,000 that he's getting from the lease. Um, that option fee, he's using that to cover all of these different costs, right? And then from there, that lease payment of 1350 a month. I can't see exactly what he had from that buyer, whatever payments they were making, but he makes money three different ways in this deal. He makes it first through he covers his options or his entry fee through that 10,000 fee. Then he covers that monthly payment of the mortgage through the lease payment of 1350. And then in the end, if the buyer 5 years from now chooses to actually take over control of the house, he makes money through that last piece by having that buyout option. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
Awesome.
It's typical. It's very similar to a mentorship that I'm going through right now. That does sandwich lease options.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he does cover it, but like really specializing it in terms of like sub two, and then kind of taking it from there. Um, really, and then yeah, I'll show you guys kind of like the decision tree also as well. I know you guys were talking about it. It's a lot. It's a lot. So let me expand it out. These are all the different options that he goes over. So I can kind of zoom in really just to give you guys an example of where to go. So really, like he goes over, like, what do you want? Do you want long-term cash or upfront fee? From there, Does it cash flow based on your PITI? Do you want to stay involved after you wholesale the property? No, you wholesale it. Yes, wholesale it. And then, so really from there, you can kind of see what kind of options to go with based on whether it's an ovation agreement or just a subtail or a JV partnership. Uh,
So Clemente, when you're marketing a sub two deal that you're trying to wholesale, so in my head, I'm trying to see how that looks. I know how to market a wholesale deal, but how do you market a sub two deal that you want to get a fee on?
there's two ways to do it. So you can kind of, let me see real quick if I can show you guys what he talks about here. But really, the first thing that he looks for is just the homestead buyer versus the cash buyer. So those are the two people that he does market to. He primarily looks for that homestead buyer first, because, and then he introduces the two people together. So that's just a way to kind of get out of the deal, is by introducing the two together. This is who, you tell the sub two seller, you tell them, hey, I'm not the end buyer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for someone else that's going to be the homestead buyer. They're going to be taking over this property. They're going to be making the monthly payments to you. And then from there, in terms of like marketing and finding one, he goes over like here how to market for a homestead buyer versus a cash buyer. There's a few different ways to do it.
Okay, cool. I didn't know there was a distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sweet, sweet. And yeah, I mean, let me see what the last piece is really just like closing the deal, and what to do afterwards. He goes over things like how to raise private capital. The due on sale clause is a big one that people talk to in terms of sub two. It's one of the big concerns, but he really addresses that in terms of how to do it. And then actually like building a portfolio and property management. So as you can kind of see from like this whole training from like week 1 to 6, like one is really in the beginning, just kind of introducing creative financing and how you were providing value and what kind of sellers to look for. And how it's a little bit different than the solution that wholesaling provides. By the end of it, he actually talks about like what to do after the and how to actually start building your business and adding this on, in terms of that cash flow, long-term cash flow, and the what to expect in terms of how to actually manage properties, right? Not just, wholesaling them, but how to build this long-term cash flow. That's just that. So that's the 6 week, like kind of training. That's really just the beginning. Do you guys have any questions about that 6 week training?
No, no.
Okay, awesome, awesome. But really, that's just kind of the beginning. That's kind of just to get you up and running to where you kind of need to be. Then Pace really gets in. He takes a lot more of a hands-on approach in the next piece, right? So as you're moving through this and you're starting to apply these steps and actually building your business, Pace. Here we go. Pace takes the next step, and this is where you actually get access to the private Facebook Masterminds group. Pace is in here till like 2 a.m. or waking up in the morning to learn, to answer all these questions that you might have. So really, any questions that you might have or any additional information that he brings in terms like right here, I don't know if you guys can see this, but they just kind of got a new script that they're using with sellers. Something that he's going to do now is he's going to have a bonus Zoom call, mentorship call, to show you guys exactly how to use this new script with sellers and how to ask questions. And then really like any questions that you might have, you ask it here. And it's a great place to network, great place to meet people near your area, in terms of what to do with them and how to meet people that might be doing it. In terms of another thing that it's great for, is to another thing that's great for is really just to meet people that are near your area. In terms of really like finding them and networking them, like as you can see here, there's rooms really of people that have kind of squatted up and built like accountability groups within each area. I know there's a Northeast or I think there's a New York group as well. So you can kind of meet people that are also doing creative financing near you, and kind of learn from them, and kind of see what tips you guys can use together in terms of your own market. And then the last piece that you guys will get access to is for 6 months. You're going to have access to weekly mentorship calls with Pace. So from here, for example, you can kind of see what he's doing. What's promised is that he's going to be doing a Tuesday today from 3 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. He's going to be going over like just general Q&A. Right now, Pace, he's going to be doing bonuses. So for example, yesterday went over just underwriting deals for 2 hours. So you'll have access to him and any questions that you or your team or you guys' team might have. This is where you can bring it to him and he'll give you that hands-on live help. And here's the schedule and what you guys can expect from it. But yeah, that kind of really wraps up what the mentorship looks like and what you guys can expect from us. Do you have any questions about that last piece that I covered?
No, sir. No.
And if you were how, and in terms of what you guys were kind of expecting from Pace and what the mentorship would look like, what do you guys think?
I mean, I kind of like it, but the thing is that we wouldn't be doing all the calling. Like Earl said earlier, we have a VA who does everything. So if we were to get your program, you have a script that we can give to the VA, for them to just go over. If that makes sense with the questions.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. They have a script that they can go over in terms of what questions to ask, and then the way the conversation goes to set up really the creative finance piece of the conversation as well. But I know you guys are busy and you have maybe these live calls wouldn't be as beneficial to you. But that's just to kind of get that guidance from Pace in terms of where you want to move forward. Like, I don't know how much you guys really want to take on creative financing, but in terms of actually getting this tool ready for you guys to use, that's where it kind of starts out with the 6 weeks of training, and then from there, once you get that knowledge piece down and you start implementing this into your business, if there's any problems that you run into, that's where these additional resources are there to kind of guide you through that deal.
So yeah, Clemente, I mean, I think we're very motivated to add the creative finance piece to our tool belt. We from a pillars of motivation, we were looking to maybe pull the trigger after we finish this mentoring program that we're currently in. But that being said, we wouldn't know to pull the trigger if we hadn't had this conversation with you. So that's really what we're doing. We're setting up our next quarter to see where we want to go next.
Yeah. So when would that mentorship end that you guys are in right now?
It'll probably end at the end of September.
Okay. Yeah. So this is just a great resource for you guys to have in terms of like when it actually does, when it does end, and you guys are kind of making the decision on really where to go next. This is a great call to kind of go back to and see really, and you guys can make kind of the most informed decision possible.
Okay. And also, how much is the program actually? We'll never ask that.
Yeah. So we do offer two different packages actually, but in terms of what to expect from the two different packages, like it's no upsells or anything like that. It's just kind of the only difference between the two is, so the first one is everything that I just talked about, includes like the training and then the mentorship calls and everything. That is for $7,800, and then the second option, the executive package, is what you'll have access to is first is you'll get 10 hours of access to 10 hours for free in terms of you won't have to pay any additional for it, is Pace's VAs. So he uses VA Hub and these are people that are trained in creative financing and wholesaling. So Pace has trained them himself, and you'll have access to them and kind of see if it can kind of be like a trial run for you guys to see if, hey, maybe this is something that we can implement, and they would be successful with us, right? So you'll get 10 hours to use them. And then from there, you'll also get your own Podio. Pace and Cody's Podio will be built out for you. And you'll have 6 months of access to use that, right? So it's built out, and it's all going to be, they're going to integrate everything for you. So when you guys get into the CRM, everything is going to be ready for you in terms of all the information that's there, and it's going to be built out to where you guys don't have to take care of that piece. And then the last piece that you'll have access to is for your first creative finance deal, or whenever you choose to use it, you can have Pace's transaction coordinator take care of the whole contract piece for you, right? Especially in the beginning with your first like sub 2 deal. It's kind of tricky in terms of actually figuring out the contract and how to do that. You will have access to Pace's contract and how for his creative finance deals and seller finance deals. In terms of filling it out, if you have the seller and you have the terms kind of figured out already, all you have to do is hand it off to Rochelle, Pace's transaction coordinator. She'll take care of everything else for you. So she'll reach out to the seller and walk them through line by line how to fill out the contract exactly. And she won't reach back out to you until it's taken care of. So really, though, those are the two different differences. So do those two options kind of make sense? The second option is for $9,800. So you're basically paying $2,000 to get the trial run with the 10 hours of the VA hub. These guys are trained more specifically with creative financing and wholesaling, so they're more specialized. You'll get your own CRM built out, and it's the one that Pace uses. We just released it last week. You'll have 6 months of use for that, and then you'll have that first transaction taken care of for you.
Your phone, your
Earlier
you're on
muted.
mute, Earl.
I'm sorry. How does that look if you already have a Podio account and you choose to take advantage of this? I guess is more tricked out Podio. What happens? It just pulls all of your data from one Podio
Yep.
account to the second.
Exactly. So everything will get transferred over. And then we'll integrate everything for you as well in terms of like getting everything set up. It'll be literally the exact one that Pace uses himself.
Interesting. Okay. Sure. And typically, what's the waiting list look like?
For the Podio setup?
Oh, no. It's for the mentorship.
Yeah. So that's kind of the last thing. So the way we have our mentorship set up is we have depending on the people that we have on our team, we'll have a certain number of students that we can cap it at, right? So for example, I think 2.5 weeks ago, we capped off the mentorship in terms of admissions for a week and a half, because we needed to hire more people on our team to handle the amount of volume that we were getting. So right now, so last week we did open it back up. So I know you guys said you wanted to kind of revisit this in September once you finish up the mentorship. So I can't promise that, at the end of September, this is still going to be open. You might need to wait a few weeks to get started and onboarded. So if like, you guys want to say, hey, we want to revisit this, but we'd love to, at the end of September, have it so we can jump in right away. What I can do, and this is just like full transparency, is I can just take a refundable deposit to reserve your spot. It's $500. It'll hold your spot. And then once the mentorship ends, or you guys want to make a decision, worst case scenario, if end of September, you guys are like, hey man, we really revisited this and we don't feel like it's the right fit, I'll just give you guys the deposit back. But it's really up to what you guys want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be something that we might definitely be interested in discussing. Putting a deposit in just to hold our spot and um, allowing the business just to pan out to see where we are at that point, and being more definitive at the end of our mentorship that we currently have.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that might be something we could consider. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. Well, do you guys have any other questions in terms of like what you guys can expect from us? I just want to like I'm here for you guys. Like this is your time to kind of get everything kind of like as make you guys as informed as possible, so you guys can make like a solid decision when end of September comes around.
So yeah, I mean, so are most of your clients doing a mixture of sub two creative finance deals and wholesale deals, or does the course kind of lead you down a different funnel?
It really ranges in terms of where the people are at. We have some people that do majority creative financing, mostly sub two. Then we have people that have come in similar to your shoes. Like last week, I was talking to a guy. He's kind of he's I think he's wholesaling 5 or 6 deals per month, and he was to the point where like, man, I'm spending like 5 G's on marketing, man, and I don't feel like I'm getting the most value out of what I'm spending. So like, to be completely honest with you, man, like all I want out of this mentorship is to be able to convert these leads that I feel like I'm leaving on the table, right? So on his end, like, man, he's a week and a half in, he's already closed like 3 deals that he just had sitting on his pipeline that he was like, man, I just didn't really have the tools to actually attack this right. Um, but for him, like he's still going to be predominantly wholesaling. Um, this is just a way for him to make sure he's not leaving any easy deals on the table.
Yeah, I feel like that's the bucket we would fall into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Hmm.
for sure. And then, I mean, in terms of like just being completely transparent with you guys, like in terms of the biggest success that we see in terms of students getting into this is that place where you guys are at, where you kind of have everything, your business is pretty much set up in terms of like marketing and everything. You guys are starting to build your team a little bit. Um, but before kind of ramping up and really getting into like scaling, the people that do succeed the most are the guys that are like, hey, I'm going to build these other tools into my belt. So once we do start scaling, I'm making sure that I'm not spending any money that I don't have to. Um, so it's that kind of that last piece investment, making sure everything's straight before they start scaling. And then, but once they start getting into it, they're like, they actually start, it's like they unlock a new like door and they're like, oh my God, man, this is like, this is good that I'm closing and I'm confident in the amount of um, leads that I'm closing, and I know my conversion rates are high. And now I feel confident in the amount that I'm going to be spending towards marketing because I know I'm going to be getting as much out of it as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand the value of this program. We knew the value anyways before, trying to sign up for it. Like we said, we're not trying to waste deals that we can convert. So, like he said, we can come back in September and definitely after having conversations and have a little bit of experience in the wholesaling aspect of the game, we can definitely come back in September and look at it again.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So we're just gonna take 3 days and get back to you on whether we're gonna lock in September with a $500 deposit, or if we're just gonna I guess circle back to you at that point and see what's available.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a question really of if we're gonna get the mentorship. Just it's just a timing thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in terms of, I mean, I 100% agree. Like, I don't think, I don't want to feel like, or try to get you guys to get started today. Like that wouldn't make sense. Like, I feel like if you do jump in, you guys need to be like at a good place in terms of the time you can commit to this and like actually feel like you're ready for it and not like be in too many places at once. So like in terms of the way you guys are going about this process and in terms of how it leads to success, like you guys are definitely setting yourself up in a way that when you do jump into this, it sounds like you guys are going to be in the right boat in terms of your mentally and the time that you can put towards this.
Yes.
Right. Sounds good. So is there any paperwork that you can send to my email as we kind of just get this on our radar screen?
Yeah. So really like the next steps, hypothetically, like if you were to get once, if and when you guys are like, hey, let's get this going. Basically what I would do is I would let my team know. And we would just send you guys a user agreement. Basically, it's just like a DocuSign saying you're not gonna like re-download the videos and like sell them elsewhere. And then as soon as that's taken care of, you guys get access to everything. So that's like the only piece of paperwork that you need to do. And then depending on if you guys want to have the rest of your team have access to like the Facebook and like that piece, we would just have them sign that document as well. If you guys just want to give them access to the training, basically what we're going to do is we'll work together to give you guys, we just have one login per like team that signs up with us. So we'd give you guys like a login and you guys decide like what email you want to use and password. And then you guys can just give that out to whoever is on your team. Does that kind of make sense? And then if you want anybody on your team to like join the actual Facebook or to join those live Zoom calls, you just let me know so I can send them that user agreement as well so we can get them in the Facebook.
Okay. That sounds good. All right, brother. I appreciate it, man. This was very good for us just to set up our planning and our game planning. We definitely saw value right before we even got you on the phone. So this didn't disappoint me at all.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So so what I'll do is I'll kind of put it in my own schedule just to like follow up with you guys. Let's just do Friday. Does that work for you guys? Like
Yeah,
Friday or if early if you guys have a decision, but kind of like Friday I'll just kind of check in, see where you guys are at, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Sounds good.
Awesome. Sweet, man. Well, I really appreciate you guys' time. And I'm excited to talk to you guys further, whether it's end of September or, you guys just need a little bit more time, whatever it is. I'm excited to work with you guys and kind of see where we can kind of take this. So yeah, thanks so much for you guys' time. And we'll check back on Friday.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys have a good one.
Ambrose, stay on for a quick second, buddy.
Okay.
All right. All right. Okay. Real talk, man. I don't even think it's something that we got to think about, man.
Yeah.
We just got to make time to do it. And I don't know. I don't think it's fair to any of us to do it now or next month because everything is so new with respect to us doing it virtual.
Right. We're just trying to get the ball rolling right now. Once we're comfortable with it.
But let's be clear. This is not something that we should do. It's something that we need to do.
Right.
Because there's no way our conversion ratios are nearly as high as they would be if we had more than one solution. That's the bottom line. Yeah. We're a one-trick pony, and as a result, we kind of, I don't like to be dependent on other investors to turn our deals into something, but that's the space we're in right now.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
all right. Well, I mean, again, man, I think this was a good use of time just to know what's what, and then I'm gonna ask I'm gonna ask Kivo to set up the mentoring call for the one he wants to explore.
All
Which
right. Yeah.
what did he say?
The Jamel
Yeah, yeah. Adam said that, which is crazy
Astro
because
shipping.
yeah, but it's kind of crazy because Jamel and Pace are business partners.
Yeah.
So I wonder how different.
It's gonna be a good. All right, man. Honestly, this ride's gonna be. I know it's gonna be a little rocky, but we already been through the hardest part, which was getting started. You know, we in New York, and we already faced the trials and tribulations and everything like that. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to get started. So
Okay.
I was on Prop Stream, but it didn't allow me to log in. I don't know. You used the Wealth?
Yeah. Hold on. So let me.
Maybe because you were logging, that's why. I don't know.
Well, here's what I'm gonna do. Let me log out and let me see you log in.
Okay.
All right. Right quick. Let me.